Here's a Sephardic story. I know I told the story before. I probably even recorded the story before, but it's a good story, so I'll tell it again. The story happens in Turkey. There used to be a very flourishing, thriving Jewish community in Turkey. I think there still is, but it's not flourishing and thriving in Turkey. Let's say about 100 years ago. And in this community, there was one Jew. He wasn't married. He was young, maybe in his 20s. And he was very accomplished, intelligent, intellectual, well-read, um, acquainted also with the non-Jews over there, with the Sultan. He was friendly with all these people. But he was a religious Jew. And he used to sound the shofar. On Rosh Hashanah, in the synagogue, he was the cantor, and he would also sound the shofar. He was a tremendously talented person. Talented person. Anyway, little by little, as the Jews were very few, and they weren't so impressive as the non-Jews were. The non-Jews, they sort of ruled over there, and especially the ones that were like high in the government. They were rich and influential and intelligent. And the Jews, he really started to feel more and more that he wasn't really getting the attention that he deserved. And sometimes, once in a while, he would like make a joke or something and nobody would laugh, or and he would say something and people wouldn't pay attention to him in a conversation. Of course, 99% of this was only in his imagination. And really, he would say the joke, he would say too quietly so nobody would hear. Whatever it is, he finally developed this whole big thing into this big ego trip. And not surprisingly, when he tried his hand with the non-Jews, with the Arabs, they really enjoyed his humor. It was very, fresh to them. And he could also play music, and he could also, entertain. And he was and once somebody invited him to a party to play at a party, they paid him good money, play at a party, and he played, and everybody really enjoyed it, and everybody was laughing, and they were joking. And so someone came up to him and said, his name was Shlomo. Shlomo, excuse me, in a couple days is going to be a big, huge birthday party for the Sultan. The Sultan is like the ruler, the sholet, the ruler. And we got the idea that maybe we should bring you there. So what am I going to do? So what are you going to do? Listen, everybody enjoys you. And the Sultan, he's heard everybody before. He's heard all the jokes before. And he's heard about you, but he never saw you. I'll bring you there, and maybe it'll succeed. You'll be there. I'll just tell the king, it's just a tryout to the Jew. Give him a minute. We'll see. 1 minute you'll tell something and do something. If the king likes it, it'll be great. And if not, you can leave. You won't get mad. So he went, and he was a success. Shlomo was a great success, tremendous success. And he was singing and this, and he was invited to the biggest parties, making a fortune of money. And finally, the Sultan said to him, listen, the fact is, I'm a person that has to be in good mood all the time, and I have a lot on my head. And it's very difficult for me to be happy and good. I want you to be my court entertainer, court jester, whatever you want to call it. And you'll be on call. Whenever I want a nice song, you'll play. Whenever I want a nice, encouraging word, you'll give it. Whenever I want a joke, you'll make a joke. I'll give you, time. Meanwhile, you'll have, you'll be on the castle grounds. You'll have a full house to yourself with everything you want. You can get married. You can bring a wife here. But just one thing: when you come into the room where I am, you can't show that you're a Jew. Can't show that you're a Jew. You have to show that you're a Muslim. And just to be sure that it doesn't come out, because things get around, you have to change your religion. You have to change your religion. I said, no, your Majesty, I mean, I think it's better. Maybe we should just keep it like this, and I'll come whenever. He said, listen, the fact of the matter is that if you don't change your religion and become like one of us, I can't invite you anymore. You can't come into the. But you have to remember that our religion is not so bad. We don't believe like the Christians do. We only believe in God, one God, and we also eat a certain type of kosher food, and we also have holidays, and we're not against this. And so we're not asking you to do anything wrong. You're not asking you don't have to eat not kosher or to bow down to anything that's not right or to marry anybody you don't want to. You just have to this. So he thinks, I can't do it. I can't do it. And finally, he remembers, listen, what's the alternative? I go by these old Jewish guys. They don't really appreciate me. And here, I'm a big star. And he's really right. I mean, they do worship one God, and, they're not asking me to do anything that's against the Torah. And, so I said, finally, he says, okay, I'll do it. I'll take it. I'll do it. So they make a ceremony, whatever the ceremony is, and he becomes a Muslim. And he's a tremendous success. And he's invited all over, and his name is known throughout the whole country and throughout all of Turkey, and he's known. Anyway, comes one day, some big party, whatever it was, the king is making, and it happens to be that day falls out on Rosh Hashanah. So Shlomo, he says, oh, now I'm going to have a good time. Shlomo's already been like in the king's palace, like 3 years. So he's already gotten used to this already. And he has good friends over there, and everybody knows him, and he's they accept him and they like him, and they give him a lot of honor and a lot of, respect. So he's, standing in front of the king. There's this big party for one of the king's good friends, and he's making jokes, and he's, that crowd is just, going wild. And just, in tears with laughter and clapping their hands for him, and he dances for them. And he says, and now, today I happen to know that is the New Year's Day for the Jewish people that I left. And I would like to, in honor of the day, make a sound of what's called the shofar. Here it is. Takes out a shofar, right? Here is the shofar. The shofar comes from the head of a ram. And he makes like a ram. Everybody's laughing. Right? And he says sometimes it's on this side, and it'll be like this on the nose. Everybody's laughing. So you know what the Jewish people do? On this day, they sound the shofar. And first of all, they make a sound which is called a teruah. A teruah, which means also the word teruah means to be broken, ruah b'shevet, to show that the Jewish people are all going to be broken and they're all going to be lit. And he goes, doo, and he sounds. I would sound it here, but it doesn't record. When I do it, it comes broken. So, doo, so he makes another joke and everybody's laughing. He said, and now I'm going to make a second sound they make, and it's called a shvorim, to show that the Jewish people are broken into 3 big pieces. Big pieces, and everybody's laughing, and he's laughing. And he goes, doo, doo, doo. He says, and finally, the teruah, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. The first sound is the tekiah, which means the Jews are stuck. The Jews are stuck where they are, tekuah, and they can't move. The second one is the shvorim, which they're broken. The third one is teruah, which means they're broken into little tiny pieces, right? Teruah b'shevet, little tiny pieces. And watch, here it goes. Teruah, and he goes, doesn't come out. The sound doesn't come out. He can't figure why. I mean, he's an expert shofar. He knows how to sound the shofar, and he does it again. No matter what he does, he can't make a sound come out. And he's blowing. So first of all, the people think that he's just joking around, so they're laughing. But suddenly they start to see that he really is like caught up in this thing. And he can't sound the shofar. And he's really trying. And someone makes a joke about him, but he doesn't pay any attention. Then somebody throws like a little, tomato at him, something like that. I figure it's part of, usually he'll make a joke out of it. And then they start to, he really starts getting into that. I can't figure out why I can't make the 1 second, one more second, and he can't make the sound. The true, he can't make this, it won't come out, no matter what he does. And the people start really laughing at him. They call him a dirty Jew and a fool and an idiot and a stupid Jew and all sorts of negative names about the Jews. And they're throwing food at him. Suddenly he realizes that these people don't like him at all. They're not his friend. They're just using him for this. And they're making all these terrible remarks about the Jewish people and everything. So he gets all angry. He really loses it. And he curses them all out. And he curses out the king, the sultan. And he curses them all out. He says, you should all drop dead. You should all this. And suddenly he realizes what he did. And in all the confusion, he runs away. And he runs out of the palace. And the guards don't know that the people are running after him. They all know him. He's going to be a good friend. He runs out of the palace. And he runs away. And he hides away for a while. And then, meanwhile, he grows a beard. And used to be, be heavy and happy. And little by little, he loses a lot of weight. And he wanders around from place to place. And he hides away in synagogues. And people have mercy on him. And little by little, he comes back to Judaism. And he goes to some faraway place in Turkey where nobody knows him. And it all dies down. And he comes back to Judaism. So he goes to a big tzaddik. I read in the story that it's Rabbi Abu Lafia. And he went to him and he said, I don't understand what happened. He said, I realized I made a mistake. Good. I went to the said, but what happened exactly with the shofar? I don't understand. He said, the tekiah, I could sound. Doot. No problem. The shvorim, I could sound. Doot, doot, doot. So, but when it came to the trua, I couldn't bring out even one small sound. Not one little peeps, nothing whatsoever. It just didn't work. And believe me, I'm an expert of the experts. I know how to sound. Here, I can sound it for you right now. Here, look. No problem. Why is it that then I couldn't sound no matter what I did? Everything, like all the tricks I knew. I know how to sound the shofar if my lip is cut, if it's sore, if it's cold, anything. I could put it in the middle of my mouth to the end of my mouth. I know how to, and nothing worked. Why? And so the tzaddik, the rabbi, told him, I'll tell you why. Pretty simple. He said the three sounds that we sound in the shofar correspond to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The tekiah corresponds to Abraham. The shvorim corresponds to Yitzchak. The trua corresponds to Yaakov. Said Abraham had one son, Yishmael, and that he didn't carry on the tradition of Abraham. He was relevant to the non-Jews. Therefore, the tekiah, which is relevant to Abraham, you took the portion of Yishmael that's relevant to the non-Jews. And the shvorim, which that comes from Yitzchak. Yitzchak also had a son that wasn't relevant to the Jews, Esav. Esav left the way of Yitzchak. And so because the shvorim is relevant to Yitzchak, so you could make the shvorim, that's because you left Judaism, that's the part of Yitzchak, which is not in Judaism. But Yaakov, it says, mitatat shlema. It says that Yaakov, his offspring were complete. There wasn't one of them that had any connection to the non-Jewish world. Therefore, the trua, which is purely from Yaakov, you weren't able to sound because that's purely Jewish. That's the reason why. He realized that Judaism was not just an idea up in heaven, and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob are not just biblical figures, but they actually have repercussions in this actual physical world. And soon, when the Mashiach comes, he will sound the great shofar, which will be representative of everything that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did together, and all the Jewish people will wake up, and it'll be fulfilled what God said to Abraham when he made the circumcision. You will be the father of all nations. The whole entire world will come to worship only the creator of the universe. Have a good day with Mashiach now. See you all tomorrow, God willing, at 8:15. Shalom, everyone.